Welcome to this webinar on making your research open with Europe PMC. We're really excited to have you here. We'll start in just a few moments, and meanwhile, I'll go over some housekeeping points. My name is Maria. I'm the Europe PMC Community Manager. I'll be moderating the session today. You'll notice that this webinar is recorded. Recording and slides will be shared with all of you who've registered for this webinar today, and we'll also make them available on the Europe PMC YouTube page after the webinar. With us today, we have Fran Rogers, who's the Author Customer Support Specialist. Fran, you can give us a wave. She's part of the Europe PMC Help Desk. She'll start with the Europe PMC introduction and also walk you through the open access policies of Europe PMC funders, as well as the manuscript submission process. And after that, Summer Rosanovsky, who's our community outreach officer, will talk about the benefits of including publications in Europe PMC, as well as different ways of enriching literature with preprints, ORCIDs, data, and so on. For all of you, please note that we will have a Q&A session at the end. At the moment, you'll notice that all attendees are muted, so we ask you to type your questions in the Q&A box. Please don't use the chat for questions unless it's something to the organizers. And then you can add your questions at any point, but we'll come back to them at the end. Finally, at the end of the webinar, we'll ask you to complete the evaluation form. It will help us with organizing such events in the future. I'll share the link in the chat in just a moment. With that, we can move on to the beginning of the webinar. I'm going to pass over to Fran. Thank you all for joining today. Fran, could you possibly share your screen? Sorry, guys, we're just waiting on the Zoom to kick in.
Sorry about that. Hello, so I'm Frances Rogers, and I am from Europe PMC Help Desk, and I'm here to tell you how to make your research open with Europe PMC. So for the content today, I'll give you a very quick introduction to Europe PMC, an overview of the open access policies of our funders, how to provide a funding acknowledgement, and then details on how you can make your research open via our manuscript submission process, how to review author manuscripts, and finally how to link grants to publications. So Europe PMC is a worldwide literature database. We primarily focus on biomedical and biosciences. We have a wide range of content, so as well as abstracts and full text articles. We also have NHS guidelines, agricola records, and since 2018 we've been indexing preprints. But we're not just a literature database, we're also really keen to make ourselves as useful as possible to researchers and aggregate all the content that's useful to have around the articles that we have. So we link to data behind the article. We currently link to around 40 biological databases, ORCIDs. We also have an annotations tool to help you highlight specific terms. So try to make it a one-stop shop for all your needs. So the primary use of europepmc.org is the search functionality. So I'll just demonstrate that for you. hopefully. Yeah, so the big bar across the top is where you can put your searches in. There's one of these at every page. Your results will be returned via relevance to start with. However, you can change that to, for example, time cited or the date published, and you can go from most recent to oldest or the other way around. We also have these filters to the left, so you can choose review articles, years, how open the content is. You can also export the citations. And as you can see, if you accidentally put the wrong number in, we helpfully tell you that's wrong. So we can do that in several formats. So that's a really quick overview of the search. Okay. We also have a more advanced search that you can access via the link to the bottom right left of the search bar, and this gives you lots of options and you can really narrow down your search here. Feel free to get in touch with us if you need any help with that. And you can find our search syntax via the website here. So that was a really quick overview. So moving on to the open access policies of our funders. So these do vary across funders. Historically, it tended to be release of the author accepted manuscript 6 months after the date of publication. With Coalition S and Plan S, Horizon Europe and UKRI policies changing, it now is moving towards more immediate release with a CC BY license. You can find your funder policies via our website at about, then funders. You scroll down to your funder and you'll be able to find their open access policy. We would always say that your funder is the definitive source of information on this. If you do have any queries, please seek your funder's advice. Also, some of our funders do require a specific acknowledgement statement to be made in the article. Again, do check with your funder if you have any questions about the formatting of this. And I've just given a couple of examples here. And you can actually search for these via the advanced search on Europe PMC. So if you have a peer-reviewed research article that has been accepted for publication in a journal and that was supported at least partly by one or more of our funding organisations, you can submit your manuscript to Europe PMC via the manuscript submission system, Europe PMC Plus, to help comply with your funder open access policy. So to give you a brief outline of the process, the manuscript files are uploaded. The Europe PMC then converts the files into web and machine readable formats. The author then checks and approves the conversion, and the manuscript will then be released after the publication of the journal article onto Europe PMC and PubMed Central. So the Europe PMC submission system is Europe PMC Plus, and so you can access this at plus.europepmc.org, and it will look like this. So we have tried to design the system as user-friendly as possible. So you'll notice the breadcrumb trail as you go through. There's useful information on the right-hand side, which will hopefully help you with any questions you have. If those aren't answered by the information there, please do feel free to get in touch with the help desk. We start with asking for citation information. As the earlier, we can get any links to PubMed. That makes the process smoother, but you can also submit things that aren't in PubMed. You'll be asked to make a manual citation. That's absolutely fine. And yeah, so you just need to search for your article, find it, or enter the citation manually. And then we ask you to add your funding information. So in this case, it's a welcome funded article that was submitted to the journal after the 1st of January 2021. Therefore, Plan S applies. And so depending on what grants you put in, the system will help you to comply with your funder policy. So in this case, we are getting the CC BY licensing statement to agree to make sure that you are Plan S compliant. You're then asked to upload manuscript files. So please upload the manuscript file as either a Word file or a PDF. And also include any supplementary files that are involved. You don't have to put the figures and tables separately unless they're not in that manuscript document. So once you've uploaded your files, you will then be given an overview of what's been submitted so you can check it. At the moment, we are having a little bit of problem with the conversion. So you may see this message, but you can always check the files themselves by clicking on the files in the Files tab. And when you are finished, you will get a clear thank you message, and you can also claim your work to your ORCID. There is another method of using PLUS. So sometimes either the journal themselves or an administrative member of staff has submitted on your behalf. So in this case, we refer to you as a reviewer. And so you'll get an email from us asking you to review the files. So then you will be taken, once you've logged in, you'll be taken to this screen. So you can then check that this is something to do with you, that the files are correct. You can at this point reject if they're not, or submit if everything is present and correct. The files will then be converted by us, at which point you will get an email saying, we've converted these files, please check that they're correct. And so this is the final review stage. So in this case, you will see our version of the article file, unless it's and then you can check alongside your submitted file. To report errors, you can highlight anything that's been incorrectly tagged. So you can let us know that we've made an error in the conversion. And so you can send us the error report. We will then correct those and send the corrected file back for your approval. Or if we have done it correctly, you press approve and it will then be ready to go as soon as that article is published or after the embargo period has passed after publication. You can also link your grants to publications. So sometimes it may be that we have the full text of an article, however your grants haven't been linked due to how we have received the files from the publisher. So you can do this via the system as well. What will most likely happen is you'll probably try to upload a manuscript to us and then go through this process and realise that we've got the full text and link the grants. But yeah, so here the system has detected that there is a PMC ID. So we'll ask for your grants as normal. And then we will give you a little alert to say, it's okay, you don't need to submit your files. We've got them. However, we will link the grants and also give you your PMC ID, which some funders use for compliance checking. So if you also, if you ever feel that that's incorrect, please do let us know. And within your My Manuscript section, it will look like this. So it's considered complete. And you'll also have the grant link submitted sign. So these are our funding organisations. Europe PMC was developed at EMBL's European Bioinformatics Institute, and we are partnered with PubMed Central. And please do let us know if you have any questions, and generally if there are any questions with submitting particularly, please do email helpdesk@europepmc.org, and we are always very happy to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran, for the presentation. If you have any questions for us at all, please pop them into the Q&A box, or if you come up with questions after the webinar, then as Fran said, please do get in touch with the help desk, and I'll put the email address in the chat shortly. And now over to Summer, who's gonna talk us through why it's beneficial for both you and the readers of your work to have your research available in Europe PMC. Thanks, Summer.
Wonderful. Thank you, Maria. And thank you, Fran, for the great introduction on Europe PMC and Europe PMC Plus. So yeah, I'm going to go over the benefits of including your publications in Europe PMC. So one of them is going to be the funder policy compliance that we've just covered with Fran. And I'm going to be covering the rest, which are increased visibility, an enhanced user experience, recognition for authors, and support for further research. So Europe PMC is an open access platform, as Fran has explained to you. And as you submit your manuscripts, they're then openly available on Europe PMC. And this in turn increases the visibility of your papers, as there's no paywalls or subscriptions or user accounts required for people to access and view your research. This means anyone from all over the globe can access your research. They don't need to be linked to a university institution. This could be general public, policymakers, journalists. So these are all really important, or people even working at home where they don't have access, and those at universities and institutions that don't necessarily have the funding for subscriptions. So this is really key for increasing the accessibility and visibility of your work. It also means that there's full text included when you're submitting those manuscripts. So people aren't just able to only visualize that abstract, they can see all of that text, including your methods, your figures. And that means that then researchers could go on to use your methods or replicate and reproduce what you've done. And for the full text, this allows the search to actually put in Europe PMC, it searches through the abstract and the full text for keywords. And this will mean that, let's say you're in a smaller research area or it's a new concept, your papers will come up more frequently, and that's even if it's in larger areas as well. So it will help make your work more visible, because if you've got these keywords in the full text or the abstract, it will come up. And that's because if you kind of look at, let's say PubMed, they search for keywords through the abstract, and PMC through the full text. So where Europe PMC is searching through both, your work will be returned in a greater number of searches. Europe PMC also has millions of users all over the globe, and now that provides you access to these users as well. However, you don't only reach Europe PMC users, your research will reach many more users as Europe PMC content is shared with PMC USA, it's indexed by Google, and there is content indexed on Unpayable as well. And Unpayable is the open source tool that makes research more open, accessible and reusable. It finds free versions of papers that you're trying to access from legal sources. So if the publisher doesn't have a free copy, but Europe PMC does, Unpayable can link to that. And then that will link users to the article in Europe PMC so it can be accessed, further increasing the visibility of your research. Europe PMC is committed to innovation that makes research more visible and accessible. One way that this is done is through having clear article sections. And this adds value to the research as well. So the article sections are your abstract, let's say a summary of the research results, figures where you can see the figures within the article. So they're on a carousel, as you can see just here. And that means that you can see those figures really quickly. You can click on those to expand that and get the legends. And this can be a quick way to see if the method or the results are relevant to what you're looking for. And it also provides you then with the full text, and you can access that here, and that will provide you with further sections. And those sections are the ones that were provided to the publishers. So the introduction, the methods, results, the usual ones you'd expect for a research paper. And then this allows people to work through this paper easily and scan through the research faster. There's also some further article sections shown just here. And they add even further value to your research. They're added by Europe PMC and include citations and impact, data, reviews, similar articles, and funding. And that's what I'm going to touch on in the next few slides. So let's explore linking to citations and impact first. This includes a citation graph that we can see here, and monitors the number of citations year by year in your article, clearly showing your citation impact. And the graph can be used to showcase things for various uses, such as grant applications, reports for your funders, or for your university affiliations, and also for if you're applying for new jobs. And then you can also jump to the citations up here in the top as well, making it really easy for you to find papers that have cited you. There's also Altmetrics. Down here, you can see the donut, and that's linked to, this is an alternative metric, and it displays the attention surrounding your article. So this could be online from a range of sources, such as news reports, Twitter, Facebook, if you've been mentioned in blogs, if your research has been linked in policy. So this then gives you a breakdown to help you monitor and report attention surrounding your research. And then you also have here smart citations by site, and they allow you to link citation statements from full text articles mentioned in your research article. It gives a bit more information because it tells people if it was supporting, was a mention, or contrasted with what you've said in your work. This provides the author with an added value to easily find articles where your work appears, and for you to keep track of the impact in your field, and potentially even find collaborators or some work of interest where they support what you've said or found some contrasting views. It also then adds value for readers because it highlights for them other relevant papers in the field and enables them to build a full picture for the literature reviews that they may be doing around the research presented, and also to grasp a really good understanding of the field itself. One way Europe PMC also enhances user experience is by linking to the data behind the article. So data can be linked from 46 different resources, and you can click on the links in this section and be taken to the relevant page to provide the user with more information, for example, about protein or protein structures, protein-protein interactions. So here you've got data behind the article. So this kind of takes you through those links. So an example of that is here is showing structure from the PDBE database, and you can see the protein structure itself in Europe PMC, and then you can follow the links for more information about that protein in the PDBE website. Europe PMC also has a review section, and this is where you can find reviews and recommendations from expert sources. This makes it really easy for readers to find comments around the content and to evaluate the content presented critically. So this is kind of opening up, especially for people trying to do literature reviews, or even for yourself as a researcher, to see what is also people are commenting on your work, how you can make improvements, what's going really well, and maybe even open up some avenues for what to explore next, and some collaborations with these people that potentially have these really great ideas. Another really great feature is linking to similar articles. So if you're looking for articles that are related to something previously searched, you can check the similar articles section. For researchers, this is really advantageous because it provides further research in the field and enables you to get a broader understanding, and can be really useful for assisting when you're writing literature reviews, trying to understand a new field, or looking for new avenues for your research. And it's also a really good place for authors to find potential reviewers. So if you need reviewers for preprints or a paper, this is where you can find some people really within that field that could be really helpful there. And the other articles section I'd like to explore is funding information. So this is where you can find out which funders supported this work. For example, here you've got the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, EDCTP, and the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. You can then expand this list further, as it had with the EDCTP example here, and you can get more information, including the grant name, the PI name, grant ID, publications linked to this grant. So this is a really useful tool that researchers can use to see who is funding similar projects, which can give you an idea on where to submit your next grant applications to. And that's really helpful when you're looking at trying to get funding for, let's say, if you've entered a new area or you have a new idea, or even just the research you're currently expanding on. There's also Grant Finder, which is a really useful way to find grant information and using different search keywords. As authors, you can access it by the top navigation bar by going navigating to tools and then to Grant Finder here like that. So that's a really good way to then find potentially your grants or research around a particular grant that you found really interesting to look into further. The Grant Finder tool will let you search in keywords in the project title or the abstract, the PI's name, the institution, funders or multiple funders, and the grant ID itself. This will return hyperlinks for available grants related to this search. So this makes it really easy for you to also find your own grant information, which you may need as evidence for things. And also, if you're interested in someone else and their grant work, this is a really helpful way to help you find that as well. Recognition for authors is really important so that you're getting recognition for the work that you've done. And one way this is done is using an ORCID. So the ORCID allows you to distinguish yourself, and it is a digital identifier, and it's unique to a researcher, which helps alleviate if you've got similar names. So if you've got John and Joe Smith, or you're both called John Smith, things like this, this will help alleviate when you've got those similar names coming through, so that the research can be attributed to you and not to someone with the same or similar name. And you can claim your papers to your ORCID ID in Europe PMC. And this then is also used to create an author profile. So this is made nice and easy. You can do this on the article page. Just here, there's a claim to ORCID. And make sure that ORCID has permission to share your information with Europe PMC, because that's really key for us creating our author profiles for you. And this is what your recognition can look like here. So as you can see in this paper, Kelsey G there has the ORCID link, their ORCID link to their profile. So you can see there that there's a pop-up and there's an author profile that you can select to have a look. So this is what that will look like. And this is another way of providing you recognition for your work. This profile shows information about the total number of articles, the number of citations. Abstracts here are shown in gray. There's full text shown in blue. Free full license articles are in green, and preprints are all in light blue. And these are all publications, articles that are included in Europe PMC. So this gives you a nice yearly breakdown with the bar chart representing the number of publications and the line graph, the number of citations. This is a really useful way for you to keep track of your publications, keeping them organized, making it easy for you to list them when required, for example, when applying for grants or as evidence of impact to current funders. And it's also a really good way if you're a researcher wanting to show your commitment to open science as well and accessibility. This can be a really nice way to visualize that. Europe PMC supports further research in multiple ways, including through text and data mining. One way this is done is through author-submitted manuscripts, and they're included in special bulk download subsets that can be easily reused for large-scale literature and bioinformatics studies, as well as text and data mining, and that's through the API systems. And Europe PMC also collaborates with several text mining groups and enables sharing of text mine insights with publication readers using the Sci tool. So this is where the annotations come in as well. So support for further research for annotations, there's over 1.3 billion annotations, and there's many different areas that these cover, include anatomy, clinical drugs, diseases, protein interactions. So what this means is these articles have an annotation function through the Sci tool. These will be biological terms or relations, such as the ones that were just highlighted. And these words that are linked to these, let's say these areas like mutations, accession numbers, are then highlighted for the readers within the abstract and full text. This makes it really easy to skim through the work. So let's have a little look at that there. So it makes it easier for someone to scan through an article and get a quick overview, find key concepts, and discover evidence such as gene disease associations, which enhances the user's experience and allows them to very quickly see what they're looking for, find what they're looking for in a paper, and also see if this is the right paper that they want to be reading. It also supports scientists and database curators in their literature research by harnessing the power of text mining. And this just allows them to work faster through papers, find really key points really quickly. Another way that further research is also supported by the indexing for preprints. So a preprint is a version of a paper which precedes peer review and publication in a journal. It has likely had some basic screening before publication in a repository and is used to rapidly disseminate results. All preprints that are included in Europe PMC must have some basic screening. So that will be making sure that they're ethical and that the work is their own. And the preprints are really great because they're used to rapidly disseminate results. They're becoming increasingly popular in life sciences and support further research by showing the most up-to-date discoveries, because they take about 2 days about to come out and be released, rather than waiting for this publication period, which can take months, even a year. So you can even bring out this preprint as kind of part of this publication process, bring out the preprint and then submit to a journal and then go through the journal publication process so that your research is out there much quicker, giving you claim to that and also allowing other people to see what you're doing. And this can help advance science because the research is available straight away. So Europe PMC indexes preprints from 25 different sources, and preprints are enriched with user-enhancing features discussed earlier, such as the citations and impact, data, there's community reviews, annotations, and they also have an additional feature where they are linked to new versions. So when you update a preprint, that's called a version, and they're linked so that you can continually make sure you're up to date with the most current research, allowing you to support further research. And also if it's been published, there will also be a link to that published article on the preprint page in Europe PMC, making sure that you have the most up-to-date information. So this is how a preprint will look in Europe PMC. With there's a green box that highlights that this is a preprint. For this one, there is a journal published article available here, and that's also highlighted. If there's just a preprint, this orange box will also say that it's not peer reviewed, and it gives you an opportunity to understand what a preprint is for anyone that's unsure, and to just make sure that everyone's on the same page that this is a preprint and it's not come from a peer reviewed journal. So it's very straightforward there and very apparent for people to find. So another way that support for further research is supported is through email alerts. So you really want to be keeping up to date as a researcher with the key terms that you're interested in and the research that is related to what you're doing without having to continually run a search weekly. So one of the ways Europe PMC allows you to do this is to put in search terms, give a name to your search, then you can select to receive email updates when there's new results. So that means when Europe PMC has new results related to this search, we can send you an email to let you know that there's more. And there will be links, and that will include the title, the author, and the journal. You can also opt to have a partial abstract before you follow the link that will come in your email. And you can opt to have the frequency of these weekly, daily, monthly, and choose the date you'd like to receive that one as well, giving you the power over these alerts and how often you would like to be alerted with new content. This is a really great way to keep up to date, supporting your knowledge and thus ideas for further research. To summarize, this is really advantageous to have your article in Europe PMC because you're complying with your funder policy compliance. There's greater visibility of your research, such as showing full text in Europe PMC and making sure that it's accessible and openly available without subscriptions, without logins, so anyone can access your work. There's enhanced user experience for readers, such as data behind the publication, these external links, making it really easy to build a background of research and also see where the research is then being used, have a greater understanding of what's going on in the field. There's also recognition for authors, such as ORCID linking and author profiles, so you can showcase your impact and make sure that you're getting, you're claiming all your work and that's being showcased for you. And also support for further research, such as using text and data mining, enabling that your work can be used in large studies as well. I'd like to say thank you to the funders here, and these are the funders that Europe PMC is currently supported by, all 37. And I'd like to open the floor to any questions. So I'll stop sharing my screen for that. Thank you all very much for listening.
Thank you, Summer, and thank you, Fran, for the presentations today. Just before we go into the Q&A, I'll share the feedback link in the chat, so please fill that out at the end of the webinar and let us know how we've done or what you are interested to learn about next. We've got a few questions in the Q&A already. I'll go over them all. There's one answered question, which I'll read out for the benefits of those who'll be watching the webinar and recording. It's a question about uploading an article after acceptance in a journal, but before publication. Fran, could you just briefly answer that on air again?
Yes, so we'd recommend submitting after acceptance, but before publication. So the conversion process can take around 2 weeks. And also your article wouldn't be released until the journal publication date, so it can't be released early. So yeah, we'd always recommend doing it ahead of time, so it's all ready to go on the day of publication.
Thanks, Fran. So the next question is that some of the attendees thought the publisher was responsible for uploading the manuscript to Europe PMC, and what happens if, in other cases?
Yeah, so there are several pipelines involved here, so unfortunately it can be a little confusing. So if you publish in a journal, for example, like PLOS or eLife, that is open access and also indexed by PubMed Central, the publisher files will appear on Europe PMC. You don't have to do anything. This is more for where the Europe PMC Plus system is to plug the gap between that and ones that aren't indexed by PubMed Central. So sometimes publishers will submit the author accepted manuscript file on behalf of authors. That's generally speaking automatically pushed from the publisher system when the paper is accepted. But yeah, if you publish in a journal that is not indexed in PubMed Central, then you need to go through the Europe PMC Plus system. But do let us know if you have any queries about that. So unfortunately, there are several pipelines involved.
Thanks, Fran. There's a question about whether it's possible to submit all of the papers that have been published before, or whether there's any time limit applicable for submissions.
So this depends a little bit on how sort of when your funder had the open access mandate. Generally speaking, we would like you to give us as much as possible. And if it was funded by a grant by one of our funders, please do submit it to us, even if it's a little bit old.
Right, so as long as it's compliant, basically,
Yeah.
go ahead with the submission and don't worry about the timeline. There's also a question whether researchers are expected to submit only the articles that were meant to be published open access.
So this is more, you can submit open access articles, but also this is for ones that aren't published open access, but by going through the Europe PMC Plus route, you are complying with your funder's mandate.
All right. Thanks, Fran. I hope that answers it. So we have a question about the new eLife model. How will Europe PMC deal with peer-reviewed preprints that will not be published in a journal, but where there will still be a version of record? So I can maybe take this one. Basically, we are still having discussions in the team on that. The only example I can give for now is that of the F1000 and other open research platforms where the Europe PMC indexes versions that have not yet been peer-reviewed or that are undergoing the peer review process, and displays them as preprints with appropriate warning for the reader. And then we will also get the version of record that comes via PubMed, and then that is the what we consider the peer-reviewed manuscript. So we will basically look into providing proper labels on the peer review status of the manuscript for preprints that come from similar publishing models, so that readers know for sure whether it's something that hasn't been peer reviewed, that has been peer reviewed, and what the decision was. But we will consider the version of record. At the moment, we can only consider something a version of record if it comes to us via PubMed. That might or might not change in the future. And we will be working closely with eLife to get information about the peer reviews and peer review materials into Europe PMC as well. So the next question is, what if a manuscript is rejected, but it still appears as preprint? Would we revise which articles are on preprint, or should it be the uploader? Fran, do you think you can take that one, or should I attempt to answer this?
Okay, so so you should only be submitting articles to Europe PMC Plus that have already been accepted. So we wouldn't receive rejected articles.
Yeah,
also, so preprints are a separate system which is automated. So you wouldn't be uploading any of your preprints. That's an automatic ingest from the preprint servers. So I hope that has clarified that. Yeah,
so basically, through the manuscript submission system, you're only meant to be submitting manuscripts that have been accepted by the journal. But if you've published your work as a preprint before, then regardless of whether later on it becomes accepted by a journal or not, the preprint itself will be available through Europe PMC if it's posted on one of the servers that we index. And then full text may also become available, but that is an automated process. But that is kind of decoupled from the publishing and the journal article side of things. And then if a journal article appears, we'll try and make a link between the two, but they'll be separate items. I hope we've answered the question, but do give us a shout if you need more clarifications. Some of the participants say that it isn't clear whether non-open access publications are allowed in Europe PMC. Fran, can I detour that?
Yeah, so sorry if I didn't make this clear. So if you have, if you've got the funding, you can submit non-open access articles. So, you know, the process of Europe PMC Plus makes it green open access. I'm not sure if people will be familiar with that term. But it should be within the agreement you have with the publisher that you are allowed to do that. But by virtue of your funding, you should be able to do that. So I'm sorry, I don't know if I may be being too cautious here.
So basically, you should make your article openly available. You either do that by paying APCs to the publisher, and the article comes out as what we call gold OA. And in that case, only if the publisher doesn't submit your publication automatically to PMC, you submit it to Europe PMC via the manuscript submission system. And then in other cases where you don't go down via the gold route, but you still need to make the article openly available, if the publisher policy permits that, you submit a copy of the author manuscript through the submission system. And that's what Fran was mentioning is called the green route. And basically in that sense, often there might be an embargo imposed, or in some cases, again, it all will depend on the interplay between the funder policy and the publisher policy. But yes, essentially, even if you didn't publish gold open access, you should still be able to submit your manuscript to Europe PMC. So hopefully that also clarified Diana's question, who said that it wasn't entirely clear whether researchers are only meant to submit articles that should be published open access. There is a question of whether we could provide a better explanation of preprint articles. So maybe Summer could take that.
Yeah, so the preprint articles we include from servers, so you don't need to do anything for this. If it's posted, your preprint is on one of those servers, it will be pulled through into Europe PMC automatically. So I have posted the link to which servers are included there in the chats. There's 25 of them. So for the preprints, they will have a little box highlighting them on the main search page. So once you've done your key term search, if it's a preprint, it has a highlighted little box at the side to flag and tag it that it's a preprint, just that anyone using running a search will be able to very quickly distinguish between preprints and peer-reviewed journal articles. Then when you enter the preprint and you open that up onto the article page, it again has that little tag saying it's a preprint. And then it will also have a further tag explaining that a preprint might not have been peer reviewed, and has a little question mark where you can click on for a bit more further information. And there will be a link. Say if you're looking at version 1, that's the one that you found. Then if there's a version 2, there will be a link to version 2 that you would then be able to go and look at. And if there is a journal published article based on that preprint, there will also be a link to that so you can go and view that in Europe PMC as well. So they all need to be included in Europe PMC for them to be linked. So which would be very unusual to do one preprint and one server and then pick a completely different one for your second version. So normally, because they are really in the same preprint server, they'd all, if it's included the first time, the second one would be included. Let me know if you'd like any more specifics or some further clarification.
All right. I hope that provides an answer on what kind of how preprints get handled in Europe PMC. But if you have any kind of follow-up question on preprints, please do let us know. I believe that's at the moment all of the questions we've got in the Q&A. We will provide you an opportunity to type in some more. Meanwhile, I just wanted to mention again that we'd really appreciate if you could fill out a feedback survey, and I'll pop the link in the chat again. But also equally, it should open on the when you leave the Zoom. So for the moment, it seems like we don't have any further questions. Again, we've provided the help desk email, so please do get in touch with us at any point if anything is unclear. Fran on the help desk personally, so she'll take care of your questions and will help you through any queries. We've got one more question. So could Europe PMC also upload articles not funded by any of the European partners? Fran, could you take that one?
Yeah, so unfortunately, it does have to have funding from one of our funders. There is a cost to the conversion process. And so unfortunately, we do have to restrict it to the funders. Not all of them are necessarily European. So there are some global funders as well, but unfortunately at the moment we can't take anything that's not funded by the 37 funders.
Yes, and there is also a special route for EMBL affiliated researchers, if I'm not wrong. So
that's true as well. Yes.
That's a separate avenue. But yes, as Fran was mentioning, we do have some of the global funders who've joined the Europe PMC funder family, like WHO, like EDCTP, like India Alliance, and so there is quite a widespread in there. But the manuscript would have to have either funding or affiliation for at least one of the authors. There's a request to send a list of funders within the Europe PMC funder group. So I'll type that. Summer's responded in the chat, but I'll also type that into the Q&A if I'm able to. Sorry. There we go. So thank you all for your attention. If there are any more questions, please do pop them into the chat, and we'll be happy to answer them. But in any case, thank you for your time and for your patience today. And thank you to both of our presenters who've gone through Europe PMC and the submission process with you today. I hope you've enjoyed it. We wish you a very, very pleasant day ahead. Or if you are wrapping up your work for today, then have a nice afternoon. And we hope to stay in touch. As we don't have any further questions, I'll wrap up the webinar. So once again, thanks everyone for attending, and goodbye.